An interview with Drew Ann Wake, author of Against the Odds, the Indigenous rights cases of Thomas R. Berger.
Well, the book looks at a man who could be described as the man who stimulated the Indigenous rights movement in Canadian law. He was the lawyer who defended some of those first cases that really broke through the assumption that people who had arrived mostly from Europe were by nature the owners of this land. Justice Berger, before he passed away, had written some chapters of the book, and he asked me if I would take it on because I had been a researcher for him for other books. And I said, sure, I would be happy to do that. So I'm not a lawyer, I'm a researcher. So I thought that perhaps what I would do is I would go out and meet people in the First Nations who had been key to those cases coming forward. Because a law case doesn't just jump into the courts like out of nowhere. A legal case, one of these legal cases comes from a family or a First Nation that says, this is not right. We know we have rights that are not being respected. And they step forward and they hire the lawyer. So I thought, let's tell the story of those courageous people who decided that this should be a case in the courts and who hired Tom Berger to work with them to press the case forward. So we have two stories that are combined. We have the story of very courageous families and First Nations, and we have the story of Justice Berger, or Thomas Berger when he was a lawyer, who carried those cases into the legal realm. We're very fortunate that we have wonderful images in the book. They were taken by a law professor named Michael Jackson, who was a special counsel at the Mackenzie Valley Pipeline Inquiry, at the Berger Inquiry in the Northwest Territories. He was in charge of making sure those community hearings happened. So he was in a rare position to take photographs of the people who stood up and who spoke to Justice Berger. But they're also talking about a really important event when the Dene and the Inuvialuit of the Northwest Territories stood up and said, we're not going to have a pipeline crossing our land until our land's claims are settled. And that was an important, a critical moment in Canadian history.
Against the Odds, the Indigenous rights cases of Thomas R. Berger is published by Derville and Uproot.